welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod. And for those of you who've been watching, I introduced this morning, and then we showed a clip, an old clip of Ask Dr. Doreen, but we are back live.
Okay.
I promised them that we would be, and we're here, and we're
Great.
thrilled. Nancy had a birthday since we were last here, so a little bit later on in the show, we're going to celebrate that a little bit more.
Oh, no, please.
Oh, yes, we are. We're not going to light anything on fire.
Okay,
but
all right.
But
you're so great about these things.
Stop,
you
I'm not.
Remember everything.
But
it's also our friend. Just a shout out to Susan Campbell-Cross, who
it's her birthday today.
Who does sometimes comes on and does lifestyle tips for us for busy families. So
yes, happy birthday to Susan Campbell-Cross.
Big Act Today
happy
supporter.
birthday to you.
Thank you, darling.
And I know people have been writing in, and you can write in your birthday messages to Miss Nancy.
Thank you.
And want to remind all of you, because we didn't say at the start of the show, that this show is meant to be interactive. So if you're tuning in and you want to write into us, you can do that in many different ways, but on our homepage, which is autism-live.com. It's the live feature, and you can do that. We've got a big show, bigger even than I had known or planned, coming up for you, but we've got a lot of news to start with.
Yeah, we do. We do. Why don't we start with good news?
Okay, let's start with the best news. Great story here in Los Angeles that's been out the last couple of days, and it's been being picked up by a lot of different news services, and we're really glad. A little 6-year-old boy that's here in Los Angeles who's on the autism spectrum, and his favorite hobby is reading to dogs. How much do we love this? It is absolutely precious beyond belief.
Yeah, he started reading to the dogs after his mother, his aunt, brought him to the Gardena, I think, California. Yeah, Carson Animal Shelter in Gardena, California, here in Southern California. And that's where his aunt and her daughter volunteered. And they discovered that this really soothed him. And his name is Jacob. And he always had a lot of problems with noise, as so many of our children do. And what they found was that when he tuned into the pups and the dogs, it kind of allowed him to establish that connection and tune everything else out.
And it's, I've seen, there's a video that you guys can watch. It's absolutely precious. He takes this little mat with him, and he's got his book, and he goes over and he sets his mat directly in front of the cage. And he particularly reads to the pit bulls. There's one pit bull that he's made such a connection with. I really, I don't know that he can't have a dog, but I want to send that pit bull home with him. I want to know that can happen. Because you see the pit bull who's like anxious and barking and whatever, and the little boy comes and he sits and reads to him, and that pit bull sits and listens. It's crazy.
Well, they want to recruit additional rescue readers. They have a name for this. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So, and you don't have to live in Carson to want to do that. If you want to take your kids and have them read to the dogs, look, it can't hurt, right?
No, it can't. Or read to your own dog.
Absolutely. At the LA Book Fair, they have a booth where you can go and read to a dog.
Oh, really?
And so Jem got to do that early on. I was like, we're reading to the dogs? But the truth of the matter is the kids love that, and the dogs will sit and attend. So in any case, I don't know if you saw, a new study is out, and there are a whole lot of people questioning it, whether or not circumcision could play a role in autism. That for so long we've been looking at, all right, there are so many more boys than girls, so what's the difference?
And obviously the rates of autism are so much higher in boys.
Right, and so there is a Danish epidemiologist who has put out a study, Dr. Morten Frisch, that is in the Journal of Royal Society of Medicine, suggesting that boys who are circumcised are more likely to be diagnosed by the age of 9. And he said, considering the widespread practice of non-therapeutic circumcision in infancy and childhood around the world, the study states confirmatory studies should be given priority. But there are critics to this study. That's one in particular, Professor Emeritus Brian Morris of the University of Sydney, says the problem with Frisch's fundamental premise is that circumcision causes pain in infants and boys. Sometimes observers, this is the guy who's criticizing, he says sometimes observers believe that crying during a circumcision is because of pain, when in fact it is more likely because of the baby having to be restrained. Now, I don't know how everybody else feels about this, but when people say, oh, babies don't feel pain, I just want to smack them with a brick, right?
I can't even believe people would make a statement like that. I mean, it's a living organism, a baby.
Right, and they
of
go,
course
oh,
it
there's
feels
not
pain.
that many
Right.
nerve endings.
Not that many nerve endings.
I just don't believe that at all.
I was just curious how this study came to be, and I imagine because of a statement in the article that indeed some studies do suggest that any pain early in life can have lasting effects on brain development. So I'm thinking they must have thought, okay, if pain in early life can have effect on brain development, what's one of the greatest things that causes pain? Circumcision.
Right.
And that must have been, because I'm thinking, well, just because boys are circumcised, did they decide that because there's more autism in boys, there might be a link with circumcision?
Exactly. They literally looked at it and said, what are the differences between girls and boys?
Right.
What could this possibly, is it just hormones or could it be something else?
How can we tease that out into some other causes?
Not to put a certain person's business out onto the streets, but when I was faced with this decision, I said, oh no, we're not doing that. And yet my child in the 2 days after birth was very shut down. He didn't want a nurse, he didn't want to do anything. And there was a nurse who came in to try to help us to figure out what I was doing wrong in the breastfeeding department. And she took him and she said, well, this baby wants to sleep. This baby is just not awake. Let's wake him up. And then she was like, I don't know what's going on. He just doesn't want to wake up. He was very, very sleepy. And she said, and she kind of thrust him back at me and she goes, it's because you had him circumcised. And I said, I beg your pardon, I did not. That did not happen. And she was like, yes, you did, and that's why he's so sleepy. And I said, check the diaper. That did not happen. But they gave me drugs and gave him drugs when he was being born. And so I attributed his sleepy, because in a couple of days he woke back up. But he was very sleepy the first couple of days. But she was like, oh, you mothers who have your children circumcised.
Oh, she was
and he's
one of
shut
those
down.
Judgmental people.
Yes. But I hadn't. And then she was like, oh, well, then I don't know why he's so sleepy. Well, dig back into your judgmental bag of tricks. But I thought it was interesting. She was the head nurse and she was like, oh, you women who have your babies circumcised, and this is what happens. They shut down afterwards. And I remember her saying that. So I don't know how much truth there is to that, but I chose not to do that.
She probably believes this link then, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably. Well, but I believe that children who are circumcised feel the pain. I believe that their tears are from that. And this doctor who doesn't, I have a brick for him.
Yeah.
So there we have that.
Okay. Moving on. This in Ontario, Canada.
Oh yes, this kills me. You're laughing at me.
Tell us what.
Okay,
what
so
the story
in Canada, they had a study that the Canadian government paid for, and a gentleman by the name of Ian Daw was the chair. He was the expert on the committee. They did a study, and the study came out with a report that it made several recommendations, but it said in it that early intensive behavioral intervention needed to be provided for children between the ages of 2 and 4, because that was important. That's what the statement said. And so, and we know studies show that that's important to have.
The earlier, the better.
So what the Canadian government did was say, oh, okay, so we're just going to give it to people between the ages of 2 and 4. So everybody who's 5, you're not getting any services. And if you were on the waiting list for the last 2 years to get the services, thank you, goodbye, time's up, we didn't have it for you. No, you don't get any services. The parents are up in arms, and even the author of the study has come forward very cautiously to say, look, I stand by what I said, but it's purely a matter of logic. Just because I said that it's imperative that they have services between the ages of 2 and 4 doesn't mean you should cut off people at 5 and go, you don't get any. And he has said that there is no evidence to suggest that it wouldn't help a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old. It's just that those studies are not there. But the Canadian government has said, well, we have too many people on the waiting list, and this is going to free up the waiting list. We have another brick for that.
Yeah, 835 children who were older than 4 have been removed from the IBI wait list.
They've been waiting for 2 years, some of them, and for their place in the line. And now that they're 4 and it's their place in the line, it's going to go to the 2-year-olds And we want those 2-year-olds to have it, but that doesn't mean that those 4-year-olds should. It's criminal.
I can't even imagine the outrage of these parents that they were taken off the list. Now, there is a party, the Progressive Conservatives, urged the government to reverse the decision
And
to
the
take
parents
the kids
are
off the
protesting,
list.
saying
Yes,
this is
and
ridiculous.
let's hope that protest.
This is one of those things where I just wish we had lots of time and lots of money, because you and I would go to Canada and lay down in front of a building with these people. It's horrifying.
That's right.
Horrifying.
I'll be right
but
there
ask
with
me
you.
how I really feel, because I'm not sure. I'm in that kind of mood today, Nancy. It's that kind of news story.
I can tell you're on
fire. So Steve Silberman, who is author of Neurotribes, which we've talked about on the show extensively, has written a really, I think, important article for people to read. It's in undark.org, and it's called The Invisibility of Black Autism. And he's really taking some shots at how the system has, for more than 100 years, neglected to even look at individuals who are African American and to like evaluate whether they have autism. That because he kind of pins it on Kanner and says Kanner, to start with, said that this was a disorder that happened to white children of very highly educated people
that had a hard time bonding with their children.
Well, this is going to be interesting as these studies come out about the CDC whistleblower saying that the prevalence for African Americans is higher after having the MMR, and we're hearing that there's a statement about to come out saying, oh, but it doesn't have to do with the MMR, it has to do with their socioeconomic status.
Which is causing some, it hasn't actually come out yet, that statement.
No, but they're saying it's coming.
It's coming, and by William Thompson,
yes,
the whistleblower, and that has caused some initial outrage because, gee, there are a lot of African American families out there with kids with autism
absolutely
that are of very high socioeconomic status
absolutely
that would say, I beg to differ.
Right. Well, and you know, I love this article. It's very well written. Steve Silberman's a very good writer.
Yes, he comes up with a really interesting, you really need to go and look it up. It's on undark.org, and he talks about an early example with Mark Twain in a railroad car being exposed to a very large African American man who clearly had autism.
Yes.
And described the symptoms just to the T. So.
And it's absolutely, and the person that he met, it was Thomas Wiggins, who, if you're a student of Black theater history, you'll know that name. He was known as Blind Tom. He was one of the first people who performed at the White House that was not a white individual.
Right.
And he had a whole host of symptoms that we would now absolutely look at that and go,
autism.
okay, this is autism. But he was a wonderful musician, and he made sounds with his mouth, and he was considered, you know, a great spectacle to hear him perform.
And Twain met him on that train ride.
Yeah, but we're talking, this is in the 1860s, and yet nobody talked about, you know, autism hadn't been defined by that point. But if we can look back and go, okay, so here was a person who was African American in the 1860s, clearly had the symptoms. And still today, he then ends the article talking about having been on a mode of transportation to bookend this with starting the transportation, ending the he was on transportation with a woman who was African American, a policy expert. And she said to him as they're traveling, so what is it you do? And he said, oh, I have this book out that's on the bestseller list that's about autism. And she said, isn't that like a white person thing? A policy expert. Yeah. So there you have it. Check it out, undark.org. Okay, that's our news for today. We've got great guests.
We do. We have moms and sons.
Moms and sons, 2 sets of them today. We're very excited about that.
Autism Family Portrait. We have Chantal. Now, I always botch her name.
I do too. I said this earlier, but I think it's Sicile-Kira.
Sicile-Kira and her son, Jeremy Sicile-Kira. And they are just, this woman has accomplished so much. She's written 5 books. She's an advocate and leader in the field of autism. And Jeremy also, on his own,
Talented artist.
A very talented
Amazing
artist. And I'm reading all of these things he's done. Youth leader for the Autistic Global Initiative, ARI's youth representative at the United Nations. It's so many things that Jeremy's
And the two of them together have co-authored the book A Full Life with Autism, which is a must-read. And they're going to be with us via Skype in just a minute. And a little bit later on the show, we have Lizette Duarte and her son Eduardo are going to be with us. And so more about that coming up. But first, these messages, and then we'll be back. Welcome back. We're so thrilled that Nancy and I, for the first time on the show, we have a guest that we've wanted to have on for a long time.
A very long time.
Chantal Sicile-Kira. All right.
Did we get that right, Chantal?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
On the 13th try.
We spoke a little bit about you at the top of the show, that you are really a pioneer in this field of autism as a parent, as an advocate. You're the award-winning author of 5 books. You've got 25 years experience as a parent and a professional, and you're known for your practical advice on autism. You're an international speaker, and one of your keynote is Love, Sex, God, and Autism, which I would love to hear sometime. Your area of expertise includes the effects of autism on family, adolescence, and transition to adulthood. You had actual practical experience, Chantal, with teaching functional living skills to severely developmentally disabled adolescents in preparation for their deinstitutionalization. That's a whole show in and of itself.
Yes.
And you have raised your own autistic and nonverbal son, Jeremy, in France, the UK, and the US. And welcome to the show, Chantal. And we're going to get into Jeremy in a minute.
For having me. I appreciate it.
We refer to, there are some moms that we refer to as being the autism super moms, that they're the ones that probably have capes somewhere hidden away in a drawer, and you're one of those moms that we think of that way. You're very well known in the autism community. So it's a thrill and a delight to have you here with us. And as you were saying, Jeremy is your son, and he was going to be with us, but unfortunately he was unable to be with us today.
A little under weather.
But yes. He is a brilliant artist.
His art is so fantastic.
And so, again, thrilled that you're here. First time being with us. So should we start talking about, you have 2 children, is that correct?
That's correct. So Jeremy's the oldest at 27, and Rebecca, my daughter, who's neurotypical, is 24, and she lives in Seattle.
Wonderful.
Tell us a little bit about Jeremy and when he was diagnosed and sort of the early years.
So, I had worked at a state hospital that you referred to introducing me when I lived in California. And I was also a case manager at a regional center of Orange County. And then I moved to Europe and because my family's French and I wanted to get to know my relatives. And I ended up staying there a lot longer than I expected. And I had both my children over there. And I had recognized early on that Jeremy was not developing properly. But at that time, autism was considered a mental illness in France. And so I really couldn't get much help for him. And it took a really long time to get a diagnosis and to get help. Because at the time, they only offered psychoanalysis. And unless you followed psychoanalysis with your child, you were not allowed to receive the other services of OT or speech. And he had no right to an education, which is why we subsequently left France.
And what year was that when he was diagnosed, Chantal?
So he was born in 1989. He was diagnosed in 91. Rebecca was born in 92. In 93, we moved to the UK. And in 96, we moved here to San Diego.
Because in a lot of ways, that's like the dark ages of autism.
Yes.
There weren't a lot of services anywhere, but certainly in France, which is still behind, I can't even imagine.
Yes. So in France, they did change the law, so now autism is considered a developmental disability, so they have a right to an education, so the law has changed. But just like when we first changed the laws here, it takes a while for them to come into effect, so many students are still having problems accessing an education, and they're still doing treatments in the hospitals that you don't even want to hear about.
In Europe, right?
And a lot of it has to do with money, because if the psychoanalyst and the medical ministry are in charge of autism, they have all those monies. And so if they then go in the educational system, they have to transfer all that money and power. So a lot of it, I think, has to do with that.
Well, we've done some shows about the state of things in France. It's horrifying.
And I can't imagine, though, the obstacles you faced in 3 different countries when Jeremy was young, and how you eventually got through on all of this.
And there wasn't even the internet as a presence back then. So what did you do?
Well, already I had my a little bit of training from when I had lived in the States, even though I had worked with adults and not with young children with autism. But I just knew that my idea was, I wasn't expecting my son to become neurotypical or to become, a high school graduate. I just wanted him, I just thought everyone can reach their potential and everyone can learn something. And so that was my, what kept me going. And I think actually the way that I was raised by my parents, who were French immigrants to the States, who had 6 kids and no family around, and then, and they moved around. And so we were always the foreigners wherever we went. That kind of instilled in me maybe resilience that some people don't have. But when I think about it, which is why I did put on that show, Love, Sex, God, and Autism, which is now it's a keynote that I do at different places. It really talks about, how I got Jeremy where he is today. But, because I started thinking when I was speaking around the country at all these conferences with my practical talks, why is it that some families seem to be doing okay and strong despite the challenges, and then other people just seem totally depressed, wiped out? Because it isn't easy. It's true. It's not easy. And maybe I make it look too easy. But the point is that everyone accepts or deals with the situation in a different way. And so, even now in adult services, it's not easy, but you kind of try and figure things out, and you have to decide what things you're going to worry about and what things you're going to let go of. And the things that are really important, then you're going to go ahead and do yourself. Well, like with the whole job thing for Jeremy.
Yes, let's talk about some of the things that you were able to accomplish with Jeremy that has, been the reason why he is such a high-functioning member of the community today, despite that he is nonverbal, correct?
Right. So Jeremy, really, his autism is really a lot of motor and sensory challenges. And so he could say with ABA, he learns like 100 words, and he could talk, but if you asked him receptively to give you the right item that he obviously knew because he could say the word, he wouldn't give it to you. And it turned out that he had vision processing challenges as well. So over the years, I just realized that he did understand things because he was making connections, but he couldn't always show that to us. And when I was doing the research for my first book, Autism Spectrum Disorder, I met Soma, the mother of Tito, who was doing the rapid prompting method. And so I thought that looked like something that could work with my son. So I tried that with him. I brought him up to LA twice a month for a year and a half, and I would do 20 minutes a day at home. And I had run my own home program in the UK, 40 hours a week, doing 10 of them myself, with supervision from Lovas Center up in Scandinavia that was connected with the Lovas Center here in LA. And it helped a little bit, but, still Jeremy wasn't one of the ones that really, benefited a lot from it. But with the RPM, over time, you could see that he was making the connections. And it wasn't a miracle. It was a lot of long time work. And then I had given up on having the school do it because already I was just trying to get him home without rug burns on him from school. I had kind of filed due process a few times because of things like that. And but this one teacher came to do a home visit. She was new, and Jeremy was new to the school, the first year of high school. And I showed her things around the house. And then I said, he likes to do this. And I showed the basic steps of RPM because I thought if she's really interested, she could try these basic steps with Jeremy. And if she has a positive response, she might be intrigued to do more. I didn't show her what level he was actually at that point. And she tried. She thought, she was getting responses, and she wanted me to come in and train, so we did. I trained the staff that were working with Jeremy and her, and they started getting Jeremy to the point where they could do assessments with him and realize that all the classes he had been sitting in, that I had insisted on mainstreaming 2 classes a semester when he was in middle school, that he had been listening and learning, because every class that he had sat in, he passed the assessments at a normal grade level, and all the classes that he had never been given access to, we'd never taught him, of course he failed. So we immediately understood that he was an auditory learner, and the school, it was never my idea to go for a high school diploma. It was the school that realized Jeremy's potential, and then he kept saying, I want to learn, I want to learn, I want to learn. And so they put him on the academic track, but only 2 classes a semester, because I insisted on the functional skills and the work skills as well. And so he graduated at age 21 with a full academic diploma.
And not only that, he spoke at his graduation, something that was covered extensively in the news and was so inspirational to so many people.
Yes, he auditioned. He auditioned because they asked all the seniors at the school to audition if they wanted to give a talk, and he said he wanted to. And this is before iPads. So it was with his little notebook computer, which were much more complicated than they are now. And he gave that speech. And then, we always still wondered, what is he going to do? And we had started some self-employment initiatives at school because the workability person said that my son was not community ready. Despite the fact that he had lived in 3 major countries and had been going shopping and to the library and out there ever since he was a little guy. So I just said, well, I think he can do something, and so did the teacher. So we started some little self-initiative projects. What I just found out recently are still in effect today at the local high school.
Wow.
That's
so that's
such
really
a great
great
accomplishment. And Jeremy also co-authored a book about the transition into adulthood,
That's correct.
we should say, called A Full Life with Autism, that was put
That's
out by
correct.
Macmillan in 2012.
Well, this one's got I don't know if you can see it. It's got all my tags in it.
Okay.
But it's about the transition to adulthood. And I just want to tell people, I make practically no money on these books. I make like 50 cents for every copy.
We understand.
But everyone is so upset with the high school years and transition years that I get these phone calls and these emails and people are all depressed, and I understand. But if you just read, take it out from the library, read some of this, it will give you an idea of what you need to be doing in school. And you know what, if the educators don't know, you can, if you have a good connection with them, you can give them some information, because a lot of them don't realize how there is nothing after high school and transition program. But and the other thing is work. Everyone complains about the work situation, and it is really bad. But I think that as parents, we have to realize that if we want them to be doing something other than wiping the table and sweeping the floor, we need to go out and make those connections in our community with our friends. If we have a small business, we have to hire people. We have to kind of lead the way in that area too. It's, of course the schools have to do stuff, and they should, but I wasn't about to just, get back and depressed thinking, oh, my son's never going to amount to anything. Oh, my son's never going to amount to anything. If I had listened to that, my son would not have amounted to anything. And then 3 years ago, we discovered that he was painting portraits in his dreams. And that this is the thing that Jeremy was 24. So if you think, like I also thought, what is my son going to do? I have no clue. He doesn't have a special skill or a special talent. Well, you never know when it's going to pop up. And anyway, meanwhile, they can always be doing something.
But he does have this special talent, and you have a painting there that you can hold up to show the people at home.
So here.
Look at how beautiful.
How beautiful. His artwork is just magnificent. And you said this didn't surface until what age, Chantal?
3 years ago at age 24. And what happens is we found out he had synesthesia. And synesthesia is when you have wiring in your brain that's different for your senses. And so a lot of famous musicians have it, and when they play or hear music, they see colors.
Right.
And some people see letters and numbers and words in color. And Jeremy did, but I didn't know it. And it's because he was carrying around this book, Born on a Blue Day. Have you heard of that book?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and it's about this man who has synesthesia. So Jeremy was carrying around this book, and I said, oh, this is about so-and-so, and he has synesthesia. He sees letters and numbers and words like our friend Beth does. And Jeremy spelled out on his letterboard, "Doesn't everyone?" And I said, "No, do you?" He said, "Yes." I went, "Oh my gosh." I started asking him what the colors were of everything. And then his therapist said to me 3 weeks later, "Oh, your son sees colors around people. He sees their auras." And I said, "I'm from Staten Island. I don't do auras." Thank you very much. So I don't care whether you call it auras or synesthesia, but Jeremy has explained to me that he does read people's emotions as color. And so then about 3 months after that, he woke up with a big smile and he started telling me that he was having dreams at night that he was painting paintings. And he would say something like, "Oh, Mom, I dreamt I painted the colors of Donna. They were very yellow and bright like her personality." I was like, okay. And every day they were getting bigger and bigger and bigger, these dreams. And one day, about 3 weeks later, he said, "Mom, I had a dream that I painted 10 of my paintings and I had my own art show. Could this come true?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to tell you what I tell everyone who says, I have a great idea for a book. Can I get it published? Did you write the darn thing yet?" Yes. So I said, "You have to start painting." Yes. So we started painting, with just stuff we had in the house. And then some people around just said, "Oh, he has great placement. Oh, he is really good with the color." And he just started doing it more and more. And then people started asking him, friends to start painting. And I organized his first art show. It just happened 3 weeks ago.
Really impressive.
And at this art show, a curator stepped up 2 months before and said, "Oh, I've seen your son's stuff online. I think I'd love to curate his show. He's really a true artist. It's not just about the dreams." In fact, she didn't even want the dreams up with the paintings. And then this PR company had heard about Jeremy, and he had done some things for people because he's often giving these paintings away to people to make them feel better. And they said, "Oh, we'd love to help you get the word out." Getting the word out means Jeremy ended up on people.com, on national ABC, NBC. The place was packed. We sold everything except one painting. And not only that, he had like 30 commissions that came in, and they're still coming in.
Look at that.
And the important thing is that some people are in it because of their auras and their spirituality, and they think these are, that Jeremy's giving them their colors, which is great. And then other people are real art collectors. Excuse me. There are 2 people down here that I delivered paintings to who bought 5x5 paintings that Jeremy had painted for the show, and they're hanging next to Murrows. Jeremy's paintings are hanging near Murrows in people's homes. That's the caliber of his art.
So Chantal, where can people go if they want to see more of his art and find out more?
jeremysvision.com.
jeremysvision.com. And
without the apostrophe, just JEREMYSVISION.
Fabulous. And we're running out of time, so I want to shift a little bit to you, because clearly you're one of those can-do people. If there's an obstacle in your way, you decide how you're going to get over it, under it, around it. It's not going to stop you. And I think that, people want to know more about you. And so where can we go to find your books and find out more about, and I also want you to talk a little bit about Autism College.
Okay, so yes, my website is autismcollege.com, and my books are there, and I also have blogs on there. So there's a lot of information on that website. I also, in fact, I just wrote a blog post today on Psychology Today. So sometimes I don't have time to write on Autism College, but I write on Psychology Today. I also have a Huffington Post column, but I haven't written that in a while. But autismcollege.com has a lot of information. And in the past, I used to do online trainings there on adolescence and on the transition to adulthood. I haven't done any in the last year and a half, but I will be doing some soon because I've been getting so many requests. I just had run out of time, but I think that I found a partner to help me with the technological aspects, so I don't have to worry anymore about actually doing it. You know how it is when you work on your own? It's hard because you have to do all the pieces. I'm not a big company, but I did find someone to partner with, and so they'll be handling all the technological aspects, and I'll be able to just do the content.
Great.
Well, Chantal, you do a lot. I gotta say, I'm tired thinking about it, and I'm thinking to myself, how does she have time to do all this? So I appreciate the fact that you admitted that there are things you don't have time to do.
Yeah, I do too, because we all suffer, I think, sometimes as autism moms of, feeling like the clock is ticking and we're not doing enough.
Well, it's funny because I feel bad when I get an email that I can't answer. Yes. So I feel like if I could at least get the videos up there that people could access, because people are less into reading and it's easier sometimes with the video, then I wouldn't feel so bad. So that's why I'm thinking about that. But you're right, I haven't done any in a year and a half, and I don't feel bad about it, really.
Good.
But I do feel bad about people who don't have access to inexpensive information that can help them, that's practical.
Right. Well, you do that, we do that, we all do that.
Yes,
hopefully they can find information.
And
Yeah,
we'll send them your way. And I know I'm going to check all these things out, because Wyatt's 14 and making the transition to high school, and adjusting to that, and Wyatt is an artist as well. So hopefully he'll be following in Jeremy's footsteps and having success with his art.
It's all about the marketing, guys.
Love that.
Yeah, okay,
Love
great.
that.
All right. So.
Well, you're amazing. We thank you so much. We hope that Jeremy feels better, and that you guys will come back again sometime with both of you. And if you ever want, in the LA area, you want to come and be in the studio, we'd love to have you.
That sounds great. Thank you for all that you do, because this is really wonderful that people can access this from their homes.
Well,
thank you,
likewise,
Chantal.
we
Have a
great,
great day.
Give
our best to Jeremy.
Yes.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye. And so we're going to take a short break. I'm evaluating. We don't have enough time we're going to keep Lisette and her son for tomorrow, because that was what our original plan was. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and celebrate Nancy's birthday, and then we'll have Lisette for tomorrow. Yes. So stick with us. Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy.
I can't believe you pulled this on me.
Of course I was going to pull this on you. It's a cake. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
But it's a cake that says Happy Birthday, Nancy. It has a 1 candle on it for many reasons.
Okay.
Because past a certain birthday, we don't celebrate the first number. We only celebrate the second number. And so this is a 1 for you.
All right.
And it's a 1 in a lot of other ways, too. There are different things in your life that mark different times when you move from one phase to another.
Yes.
And so this is a 1. And a 1 in all of the good senses of a 1, that things are new and things are different, and sometimes they're scary and they're difficult, and learning how to walk again and learning how to get through the day again. So this is a 1. But I want it to be a 1 in the sense of fresh and new
beginnings.
New things coming.
Okay.
So happy birthday from all of us. We love you so much, and we love the things that you do.
Ditto.
And the fact that you've been through everything that you've been through, the poop storm that you have been through, and that you continue to focus on how to help other people. We just want you to know we celebrate your life and you being here, and what that means to all of us who get the pleasure of breathing your air. So thank you so much.
I'm speechless.
I'm not going to offend everybody and sing, but happy birthday from everyone. We love you so very much.
Thank you so much. And back at ya. You know how, as I said, I wouldn't have been able to get through this last year without this woman sitting right here. And
well, you would have, but there would have been less jokes.
There would have been way less jokes, way less laughter, and tears than laughter. And anyway, you've been tremendously supportive.
Well,
and
friends forever. Happy birthday.
All
right.
Lucy.
Ethel.
I mean, Ethel.
She's
I'm
the
Lucy.
Lucy, I'm the Ethel. All right, there we go. Clearly. So we'll have some birthday cake.
Okay.
I believe we're out of time, but I can't hear anything in my earpiece because it's that kind of a day. But we promised you Lisette Duarte and her son, and you're going to get them tomorrow. We're going to film it in just a minute.
Okay.
And then you'll get it tomorrow. So it'll be wonderful. But write in and say your happy birthdays to Nancy, because she'll appreciate that.
I appreciate every thought and every prayer and every good wish you send my way. I get them, and they mean so much to me.
Tomorrow's show is amazing. Lisette Duarte, as I mentioned, we're having an author of a fabulous book, a dad with a son who's on the spectrum. So you're not going to want to miss any of that. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.